Hey, what is going on, Miami Dolphins fans? Welcome back to the Fins Up Network. It's Ben Morgan, and we got our recap and takeaways from the Dolphins. Falling to the Minnesota Vikings 24-16, moving to 3-3 on the season. Obviously, a disappointing loss. Obviously, disappointing three-game stretch here after going 3-0 to start the season. And you know what? Honestly, I'm not a guy that's going to cheer for moral victories, anything like that. Doesn't do you any good in the win column in regards to the playoffs. That doesn't play a factor ever. But honestly, to stay in today's game as well as they did, to give themselves a chance at the end, put it this way, no one's happy about it, but it could have been a lot worse. That game could have been a lot worse. I've got a lot of takeaways I'm going to get to. Obviously, I'm not going to hit on every single thing that there is, but as always, that's where you come into play. Drop your top takeaways from this game in the comments below, and let's get things started, because the first thing that I have is defense, defense, defense. Talk about the defense stepping up when we absolutely needed to. We talked all week about how important it was going to be to shut down Dalvin Cook and how that was going to kind of just take care of the rest of the things. The Vikings passing offense wasn't nearly as effective once you took Dalvin Cook away. Ignore the 24 points that they scored. Ignore that. That's not the story of today's game. Dalvin Cook had 12 carries for 24 yards outside of his long touchdown run, which kind of broke it up at the end. But at the end of the day, how long can you hold an offense down? This defense went in possession after possession after possession and simply got stops. We asked to get a stop on the first possession of the game. We got one. We got the 3-0 that we all craved. They had so many possessions that they were able to get the defense, or the defense was able to get Kirk Cousins just a bit rattled, couldn't get the running game going, and we got off the field. Justin Jefferson went 5 catches for 60 yards outside of the nice wheel route that they had. Great play. You can't take that away. But outside of that, 5 for 60 against Justin Jefferson, the NFL's leading wide receiver, is pretty damn good. The stops on the short fields after we had the fake punt that didn't go our way and gave a short field made them lose yards. They had to punt after that one. They did every single thing that they needed for us to win this game. And I'll talk a little bit more as to why it didn't happen, but you can't put this one on the defense. The defense answered the call that they needed to. Josh Boyer came up with a great scheme and they executed it. Like I said, ignore those 24 points. That's not the story of this game. The story for the defense in this game is that they did every single thing that they needed to in order for us to win. Let's go on to takeaway number 2. Jaylen Waddle. He was my takeaway from a couple of weeks ago as well. And I love the guy. I mean, he's right here. I mean, that's my guy. I love Waddle. Come on, man. 6 catches, 129 yards. That's great. That's the numbers we want from him. That's perfect. But basically causing the interception before half, which led to the field goal, when we're dismantled to the point that we are right now, can't have those. Even more backbreaking, you know what I'm going to say. The fumble when you're in the fourth quarter and you're down by 6 points and I think it was like 2nd and 14 or 3rd and 14 or something, literally had it, was going to make the move around the sticks, get that first down. Harrison Smith does what Harrison Smith does. The guy's a playmaker in the secondary, and his veteran savviness and everything, it took care of Waddle being a second-year player. These are the growing pains that we have with a young team. But, man, these are the things we got to overcome, because what did the Vikings do once they forced that fumble and recovered that fumble? 2 plays later, you get a touchdown, which is essentially the backbreaker. Yes, the Dolphins did score, make it a one-possession game. But at the end of the day, that right there, when you're only down 6 and you get the play that's going to get you even closer to the red zone and you have that fumble, that is the backbreaker. And then he gets the injury as well to the shoulder. And yes, he did come back. We'll have to pay mind to that. I'm going to talk about injuries here in a little bit. But that's another thing you're going to have to pay attention to. But we all love Waddle as a playmaker, what he can do, the relationship that he has with Tua once he's back next week. All that stuff is great. But he's got to clean up a lot of these little things. And it starts with hands catching and protecting the ball. That's what it is right now with Jaylen Waddle. This next one has got to be on everybody's list. But the stacking up of penalties. I got a couple of notes as to how this played out, because it's a scoreless game at the end of the first quarter. In this Dolphins drive, you get 5 penalties for over 40 yards. 2 of those penalties took the Dolphins from outside of the 10-yard line, and I think one of them took them off of the 2-yard line. With the injuries that we are having right now, with everything that's going on with this team right now, it's just too much to overcome. You can't overcome a drive where points are almost guaranteed and then have 5 penalties for over 40 yards and force you to punt. Go back, and if you have the opportunity to, like if you record that game, however you rewatch a game, look at how great those plays were. Without a starting quarterback, that was still, I mean, like I said, we're without what we practiced for all season. Those were some of the cleanest, outside of the penalties, best executed plays that we had. And a lot of those penalties were meaningless. Being downfield on Connor Williams, meaningless. The hold, I forgot who had the hold, meaningless. There were so many meaningless penalties there, and it just comes down to the fundamentals, to executing the play to the fullest. Even if you're not the guy throwing the ball or catching the ball and taking it, you got to do your job, and that absolutely killed us today. Because if that drive changes, if you get points on that drive, you're playing with a lead, and we're not having to have a lot of these other conversations. So stacking up the penalties, getting that righted is something that has to be a takeaway from this game. And one thing I want to close on, like I said, I want to hear yours as well. Another just massacre. We need to get healthy again. Look at this. On top of the quarterbacks. So obviously Tua was out. He was inactive. Skylar starts, gets the hand injury. Bridgewater has to come back in. So on top of the most important position, quarterback, which all 3 have now had injury issues, you got Terron Armstead, who missed today's game. You got Austin Jackson, who continued to be on IR after this week, didn't get activated for this week. You got Greg Little that's still fighting the hand issue. You got Jaylen Waddle, who we had talked about. Durham Smythe is a scratch from today's game. Xavien Howard played through his injuries today and actually did pretty well. I know there's going to be some people out there that aren't a big fan of him allowing that touchdown to Adam Thielen. There were maybe 1 or 2 other plays, but honestly, considering how good they did against Thielen and Jefferson and the Vikings pass game in general, I thought X played pretty damn well today on everything. But then you got Byron Jones, who remains out. You got Nick Needham, who had to get carted off the field today. Another secondary issue. Keion Crossen had to leave the field. These are just those things that our depth is being tested, and it's only week 6, and our depth has already been tested. This team needs to get healthy in such a bad way because, like we saw today, you can only hold up so many times. This team is so beat up, so injured, that at a certain point in time, Dalvin Cook is going to beat you for a long touchdown, and Justin Jefferson is going to beat you for a long wheel route. That's going to happen. The fact that we were able to slow it down as much as we did prior to when those plays actually happened was pretty damn impressive. So I go back to my first point there with the defense. I mean, the defense played unbelievably well today. I'm very, very happy with the performance of that unit. But man, it's just a lot to overcome when you don't have your tackles, when you're playing multiple quarterbacks in the game. That's just so much to overcome. So like I said, moral victory, no such thing. But you take the game for what it is. And man, we were beat up. In order for us to win that game, a lot of things had to line up. And guess what? A lot of things did line up, and the defense played great. End of the day, just couldn't get it done. The offensive production wasn't there. And when it was there, we had the killer turnovers. So those are my takeaways from my instant reaction takeaways from this loss, moving 3-3 on the season. But like I said, I want to hear from you. Go ahead and drop your thoughts in the comments below, and then we're going to start preparing for Steelers week because it's a big one, Dolphins fans. I don't need to tell you more than that. It is a big one coming up next Sunday night against the Steelers. That is my time for today. So until next time, Dolphins fans, fins up.